Hi, this is an analysis of book number 16. Before I tell you about this book, here's a little preface to how it got into my head in the first place. I was walking through the book departments and saw the overflow. I don't know what else to call it, you know. When I was a kid, there were these things, little pictures that you could look at from different angles, and they would show completely different pictures. And when I saw that this book, half read, reminded me of something unusual, I just picked it up, looked at it for a long time and thought, yes, damn it, you need to stand out. And here's one of the most important points. You don't have to be shy. You don't have to be shy or afraid to stand out, because there are a lot of books, all full of titles on how to make $1 million sitting on the couch. How to make $1 million sitting on the couch in 20 days. Yes, and it happens, and it's complete crap. And here, at least, there is a visual image. It has already caught my eye, and I thought, and here it is, a hidden influence in action. So, 6 points. I'll focus on the 4th and 6th because they're just gorgeous. Moreover, they are applied. So let's start with the first one. Flash more often, and I'll like you. An experiment with 4 girls. Imagine an audience of students, about 30 people. Everyone was gathered in one room, and some people came in to conduct a test. The test was as follows. Each of the male students was given 4 portraits of a girl. These guys had to write, or rather even rate on a scale from 1 to 10, each of these girls. The experiment was successful, and when the results were obtained, one small thing became obvious. All these girls were absolutely the same, plus or minus. That is, they did not have any outstanding appearance. They looked absolutely simple, completely simple, like any other students. But the girl who was rated the best, she appeared in this audience most often during the month. It was an awkward visit when a girl comes in. She wasn't looking at anyone at all. She was kind of sitting there at the front desks and pretending that she was listening to a lecture. These 4 girls were forbidden to communicate with any of the guys. That is, they were the last to enter the audience and the first to leave it. Respectively, there was no contact. So, the girl who was rated as the sexiest by 10 points, she flashed most often. That is, this month, for example, she was there 5 times, and the girl who was rated less, she naturally appeared in the classroom less. It sounds paradoxical, and when the subject was told that this was how the experiment would be, they said, no, there was no flashing. It was. So, keep flashing. Moreover, the reason I wrote this conclusion is because if you advertise something, then remember that one touch with your target audience is not enough. You need to make sure that your target audience sees your advertised product, well, at least 3 times. 3, 5, maybe 7 times in a month, because one touch, well, you don't expect any result. Point number 2. Remember and forget. Forget and remember. This experiment is also interesting. Imagine they tell you, here are 7 words, you have to remember them. And the words are kind of strange. That is, there are 3 ordinary words, bucket, guitar, cloud, and 4 adjectives, sullen, angry, trivial, and melancholic. And all these adjectives had to be remembered. Time passed. People thought, why memorize these words? And the next task followed, and now read the letter and rate this person, and our assessment is primarily based on adjectives. And when they got acquainted with the letter, and it was about a guy who dropped out of school, then went on a trip, then did this, that, in general, the group that was originally tasked with memorizing these adjectives in a negative connotation described this person as a negative person. And those people who didn't have to memorize 4 sad adjectives, but characterized this guy as a daredevil. Funny. What's the point? Point number 2. It's not just a test for the sake of a test. It means that if you plan to spend a productive day, then isolate yourself from all the negative information. It doesn't matter if you are working one-on-one with your computer, or you have some kind of deal ahead of you. Be sure to remove the negativity. Point number 3. People who imitated their opponent during negotiations were 5 times more likely to make successful deals. And you know, it's not about NLP for NLP's sake. It's about something else. Some people are so fanatical about some kind of technique that, for example, if you're sitting with a stranger in a coffee shop, you cross your legs, he crosses his legs, you lean on the back of a chair. He leans on the back of a chair. You take tea. He did it too. And it's damn scary. First of all, like you're some kind of maniac who fanatically tries to imitate his opponent. No. The point is that if you really want to add a couple of points to yourself and get better and more acceptable conditions, then try to imperceptibly mirror your opponent sometimes, and occasionally, just a little bit. Maybe with some kind of delay, that is, if he turns his leg over and you start doing it abruptly too. No, damn it, you don't need to do that. Little by little, gradually, and watch for the reaction. Point number 4. An experiment with creating a hit about a vacuum of 48 unknown performers. We recruited 50 completely different students. Each of them had completely different preferences in terms of music. Someone heard rap music, someone rock, someone punk rock, someone classical. It doesn't matter. In general, they were simply gathered in isolation from each other and included for them, for each of these students, as many as 48 unknown performers. The trick was that these 48 performers were completely unfamiliar. It's not like the songs they play on the radio. It's not about them at all. It's just super underground. These are the songs that are played in garages, not even in clubs. And there was one small detail in this experiment, that if you listen to a song, you have to rate it. From 1 to 3, give it 3 stars, let's say. And the next person who came into the room and listened to the song, he saw that you, for example, rated the 8th track 3 stars. And this little detail of the first man revealed itself like a snowball. When you rate something, and they turned on a random hit, they turned on the 8th, or they could have turned on the 11th, or they could have turned on the 43rd, or they could have turned on the 2nd, but they turned on the 8th, and you scored it 3 points. So, this snowball reaction led to the fact that those first tracks that appeared in the audience were initially rated higher. Pay attention even to your behavior in some services in terms of music. There is such a section called the top, and they are listened to the most, but as a rule they do not waste attention on unknown songs. What's the point? The experiment ended up being able to create a hit in a vacuum. All the songs were plus or minus the same. They weren't outstanding. They were just ordinary. They were just picked up. They were all the same, and people voted more for the songs they had listened to initially. And the conclusion here is this. If you're promoting something, an online store or a gym or some kind of service, it doesn't matter, and you just show up on Google as the top 3 gyms in your city. Trust me, some people are looking for something through tops. Ask around your friends and acquaintances, noting that, alas, mass influence is your decision. Item number 5. How repeating a waiter's order increases his tip by 70%. Cool point. It's about the fact that imagine you come to a restaurant. We ordered each of the dishes, and the experiment was that the waiter would come over, write down your orders, and then leave. That was the first reaction. The second reaction was about the same, only the waiter repeated the whole order in full. Well, that's what was dictated to him. Do you know why he dictated, and why there were 70% more tips? But because when a person has already named his dish, and the waiter repeats it to him, a dopamine release is triggered. This means that you have ordered a delicious meal, and the waiter repeats it to you. You trigger a release of dopamine, and you begin to feel happier than you were a few seconds ago. And this affects tips. So try to think and find such small details, but it's just a tiny detail, and financially it greatly affects the wallet. Do it. Come up with it, and see what you can do with small tricks that will move you further than your competitors. And point number 6. The right balance of recognition and novelty also determines what will become popular. It was about music and movies, but still there are elements of music and movies in business. But in general, it's a peculiar taste. So, for the most part, those songs that are somewhat familiar to us, but in some new processing format, become hit. That is, there must be an element of novelty, because the start is also a little boring, and you want to listen to something new and fresh, but at the same time, old familiar beats, old familiar melodies, combined with novelty, make a popular hit. It's the same with movies. Why do they make remakes? Because there will be novelty. Well, because there will be special effects, because there will be novelty. It's the same with business. Try to find and use novelty, and some old and familiar things. I hope it was interesting and useful. Use it, implement it, and don't hurt. Bye-bye.